right. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to Wrike Things with Matt and Ryan. It's great to be chatting with you all again. Ryan, here we are, 2026 already. How you doing, man?
Doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. It's amazing how fast 2025 went, and 2026, we already have some pretty exciting things personally and professionally coming. So it should be a great year.
Yeah, absolutely. Which probably brings us to the topic of our first episode of 2026 is some things we've heard in the news. Matt, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think it's hit my plate, it's hit your plate, so it seemed like a great thing to get on and talk about. And that's the news about Microsoft sunsetting Microsoft Project, right? So that's some big news. That's a tool that I think's been near and dear to many people's hearts. And I think, depending on who I've talked to, some hadn't even heard it about it yet. So it's like, what do you do and how do you react? I think it's the date, I think it last heard September this year is where that's happening. So certainly not something that you want to sit on your hands about, right?
No, and it's something that I've heard about a lot, right? So the news popped in September. MS Project is going away. Obviously, Planner will still be there. But ultimately, we've been getting a lot of people coming to us and asking, hey, can we make a smooth transition out of MS Project into Reich? And so, we thought this is probably a good avenue for us to chat about this a bit. As you mentioned, it's going away later this year, but it's crucial to start making that migration or look at what's out there and start making some plans on getting your projects into a new system, but also, making sure that you're maintaining the work as you do so.
Yeah,
With that, like there can be a lot of change. And Matt, I know you've seen some of that as well.
yeah, change it. We've said it. It's so much it's cliche, but it's true. Like change can be scary, right? Especially when you have a tool like the backbone of what you've been doing has been built around this tool for many years, decades, maybe even. So, sure, that could be scary. I think the important thing that I've shared in my conversations with others is like Reich's got you, right? We've got those capabilities and more. So I think it's just a great opportunity to embrace the change, learn, how that new tool does the same things, but, largely the same way and a lot of the same features, and then all the goodies that you get with that new tool too. And I know you used Project in the past, right?
Yeah. Kind of in a previous life, I once actually ran all my projects through MS Project, and I ended up taking on like a 2 to 3 year project, and I couldn't have done it without MS Project, right? I think ultimately I was delivering timelines and reports and focusing on schedules and milestones and figuring out who's responsible for all of those items. And it was my favorite tool. Um, but at the same time, I also had to use a lot of other tools. And so I think that this is a good chat for us to have is, fast forwarding to today, yes, we can still do all those things. And I'm going to start us in a Gantt chart, but we like you just said, we want to make sure we cover the core functionality of what MS Project has, but then also talk about where there's a lot of room for growth. So I'll dive right in. I'll share my screen for those that have never seen Reich before. This is going to be our Gantt chart, and so ultimately, Reich is incredibly easy to navigate online. There's a navigational sidebar, and I love that even in a desktop web browser. I can just dock that away and focus on the work that I'm doing. And so I tend to do that in the Gantt chart. It's going to be split down the middle like you would normally see. We have, our standard table view of all of the, projects, phases, tasks on the left-hand side. And then on the right-hand side is our visualization of our schedule, the Gantt itself. I wanted to pop this open. You can see I have a multi-phase project. It runs over the course of several months. And there's just some things that kind of stand out right away. So first of all, as these project things get completed, they can be color coded. Completed can be green. Things that are in progress could be purple. You can set all these based on what statuses you want to see, and it just gives me that kind of quick snapshot into where are we. But some of the things I like to turn on, and again, this goes back to core functionality. We have things like overdue task warnings. So I can actually color code anything that's overdue right there visually for me to just see and pinpoint immediately. Of course, we have some other things that we can turn on in there as well. If I wanted to identify the critical path to that last task, You see that's going to highlight that here in the Gantt chart. And you can toggle on a lot of these features depending on what you need within that Gantt chart. Now, I have to say, as somebody who used to use MS Project, coming into Wrike, I think adoption is incredibly high. I find that our Gantt chart is actually a
Mm.
lot more user friendly. So, all interactive, all very easy to use. We can easily drag and drop dependencies between tasks, whether it's from finish to start or from finish to finish. You can do all that in here, but you can also do it on this table view as well. So if I wanted to take more of that text-based approach to applying things like dependencies, I can assign them on the left, and then the graphic would update real time on the right. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah, go ahead, Matt.
no, I was just going to jump in and just say like that, when I was thinking about my early days in project management, right? Like where you just didn't even have the drag and drop capabilities, and ultimately you're just trying to set milestones all together via table. It's just one of those moments where it's simple and easy, and it just helps with the adoption. Like you said, how do we make it as easy as possible? Get in, get the work planned, and then get executing.
Yeah. Now, speaking of work planning, snapshots are one of my favorite features in the Gantt chart that we have for a couple of reasons. So, let's say I wanted to take a snapshot of this Gantt right now. I would just go ahead and say take from current state and hit create. I can give it a title, and I can also give it a public link. And I find that this is very useful, right? If I have a customer or I have an executive or I have somebody that I need to get a copy of this visualization to, I can now just hand them that link and they'll get a read-only copy. But when I do this, a couple things happen behind the scene. It actually just took all of the dates that we have and it just commit them to our baselines. And so I can bring in baseline dates, I can bring in any of the custom fields I've built or any of our standard system fields. But you'll see as I select that snapshot that we just took, I now have these baseline dates, and then I have my kind of, live or real-time dates right here as well. And this is going to be important because, as something may shift, let's say we had to push this task forward, you'll notice I get both of those visual cues. I can see where the original baselines were and where the actuals are. And now I can always take this data and use that to come up with some approach of, how on track or off track were we? Where exactly did we get off track? And I can use this for further planning. I took a current state snapshot, but I also like to point out that we also do take snapshots every day. So if I wanted to, I can go back and I can look at snapshots over time and see, how did this change yesterday, a week ago, a month ago? And so those are all happening automatically. You don't have to take those snapshots one at a time. So kind of a combination of all of that, I think is some of my favorite, right out of the box features. But there's one other Gantt chart call out, and I think this maybe just goes back to my days in MS Project. Right now, I'm looking at a single project, and in Wrike, you can build a Gantt chart view at any level, whether it's a project, a folder, a parent folder, or all the way up
Mm.
at the highest level, like a space. So if I wanted to see four projects all at once on the same Gantt chart, I can do that, and then I can build cross dependencies between my projects. And that could be done between departments. It could be done between, folders. It could be done between different projects. And so that just kind of shows the scalability of our Gantt charts, which I know previously was something that I always struggled with in MS Project.
Yeah, and I think we'll certainly highlight that a little bit more in a bit here when we talk through collaboration. But that's when you get into Reich and you move beyond just planning the work and executing, especially cross-functionally, like what project these days doesn't have people from multiple different departments? It's you need everyone there, and the constant challenge everyone's running into is where's this team at, or where's this work at, and ultimately having the snapshots, understanding where things are drifting, being able to look at it from multiple different lenses, whether you're looking at it from multiple projects or cross functioning across a lot of teams. It really gives quite a bit of power to you to design it in a way that makes sense for your own team and department.
And to call out real quick too, the structure is very similar to MS Project, which makes importing a lot easier than, say, coming from other systems. We follow a very similar hierarchy, right? Projects, subprojects, tasks, dependencies. And so all of that data can can actually be imported and ingested into Wrike so that it'll play very well and make that migration a little easier.
Yeah. All right, let's keep moving. Let's jump
Yeah.
into resource planning, right? So I think when I was sitting here thinking about why is our workload chart like so special? Why do we love it so much? I mean, you and I've talked about this in past episodes. We could probably do an hour-long episode just on our workload chart if we wanted, because there's just so much power there. But really, I think what I love about it is the core simplicity that it gives and just letting you find the people and get them assigned to the work, right? And I think the two lenses that you get here at the top, right? Like your people or your projects, right? You could look at the work from either lens that may make sense for you, whether you're looking at it from a single project, multiple projects, or if you want to look across all the people within your department or within your team, right? And then being able to come in and filter that down. So maybe I have a specific project where I want to just look at quality assurance teams, right? So I could come in and only look at my QA people, or if I want to look at everyone in the entire team space or a specific project, right? I have the ability to do that backlog box, right? Like, so coming in here, then once you've assigned or once you're ready to assign work, right? Coming in, finding those specific tasks that you need to assign, and then actually being able to pull those in and just drag and drop that to a specific person, right? Reassign that work. It's a matter of clicks. And then ultimately, like getting that visual across all the teams. Where are they spending their time? Where do we have people that are overloaded? Do we have people that could use more work, right? Ultimately, it's a really simple tool that allows us to quickly take the work that we've planned, find the people that could complete that work, and just in a matter of clicks get that work assigned directly to them. Beyond that, then I think kind of like where we start to give some of these superpowers that maybe you don't get with other tools is our idea of having intelligent assignments, right? And actually being able to find people. So I worked in a large organization. We had over 100,000 employees. And imagine when you need to find something like a Six Sigma black belt, right? There could be hundreds in your organization, and maybe your go-to Six Sigma black belt is not free right now, and you need to find someone else, right? Well, that's where our skills and resourcing can really become powerful. So here we go. Let's say I've got this task here that I need to assign to a project manager that needs to go to one of our black belts, right? Could easily come in here. I'll add certification. So this certification field, for those of you that aren't as familiar with, right? This is an attribute that I can assign to every project manager in my company, right? And I can share what attributes and what special skill sets they have. Well, having done that, now if I come in and I say this specific piece of work, it requires a Six Sigma black belt. Now I've got a lot of variables here right in front of me, right? Like I know what the work is. I know what the start and due date is for this work, right? And I know the type of person that I want to, right? I want a project manager and I need that Six Sigma black belt, right? But now, how do I find out who? Well, this is the power of Wrike. Now it goes in, and what it's intelligently done behind the scenes is you could see there's a green checkbox here. It's found all three people in the organization that are available within this date time frame, that have the project management skill set, and also have that Six Sigma black belt certification, right? So it takes that like I think the old days where you're going out and sending emails and slacking and asking like, well, who are the other black belts here, right? And now all of a sudden it's just distilled that into a few clicks.
Matt, it's funny because at the beginning we talked about change and how kind of the change can be daunting or there's fear involved in change is kind of an old cliche, but this is actually one I see a lot with customers that are making kind of a switch. I think on the surface, everybody says I've got to have the resource management view, the workload chart, and as you mentioned, I love this view. I can see my whole team, I can see their effort, I can see everything. I've done some retros with people who 6 months later I said, so just curious, how are you assigning things to people today? Are you leveraging the workload chart or the dashboards or the smart assignments? And it's amazing how many people have just kind of switched to this because, you know, they know those three people and they know which one maybe is already
Mhm.
familiar with the project. And Reich, they're able to trust it that it knows that that person is available and can take it on. And all they have to do is kind of make a decision between those three people as opposed to, you know, dragging and drop whole sets of work onto them. So, you know, either approach, I think the tools are there for everybody that needs them. But as the technology advances and as we get more data in on our users, this is just another place where resource management becomes even more robust than whatever was available in MS Project.
Yeah, yeah. And it just all these different pathways to ultimately find the people to do the work, right? Because at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to do is like
Yeah.
we don't want to be in perpetual planning cycles. We actually want to deliver things, especially here, 2026, start of the year, right? We want to exit this year with some accomplishments. So let's
Yeah.
put some tools in everyone's hands to do that.
I think we all agree. We want to get work done, right? We
Yeah.
don't want our work to just be planning work. We want to get that work done.
So I wanted to pivot here then real quick, Ryan. I mean, I think we showed two of the tools that should be really comforting and kind of echo that point we started this conversation with, which is Reich's got you. But you know, the core ethos of this web series we do, we always like to show the cool stuff where some new things or ways to geek out. And I thought one of those, I know we touched on this in the past, but I think it's really powerful to come back and talk about what about things that aren't human, right? That you have and you might need to schedule work to as users. There's certainly like we see things all the time, like from marketing teams, it could be camera equipment. From manufacturing organizations, we've seen actual equipment on the factory floor, whether it's scheduling maintenance or other work. And I think the other one that's like really captivated my interest here, especially with our recent release of AI agents, is what about starting to assign and allocate work to things like AI agents, right? And to capture that. I think that's another cool area where we've got within our user pane this asset section where you have the ability to come in and quickly and easily add any type of asset you want. So if I wanted to build an AI agent, I could come in, create that AI agent, and I have that there. And then next thing you know, I could sign a job role to this, right? And actually, mark this as an AI agent in the system. So we see that in our workload charts. Then if I go back to workload, what you can see here, I didn't touch on earlier, is like we actually have that equipment. We could add that to the workload chart, right? We could add skills to it. Maybe it's an AI agent that has a specialty or a piece of equipment that works on a special product, right? But we can add that into the workload chart. And now I could come back in with that exact same backlog box and take work that I want to assign and allocate to equipment, simply drag that, drop that, and then there you have it. You've got a
Matt,
piece of equipment showing.
you mentioned, you know, I think we talked about this on the show last year. And that was around the time it was coming out. And, you know, again, I think we were like, yeah, camera equipment and computers.
Mhm.
And at the time, I was thinking, oh, real tangible assets that people need to check in, check out. And since then, since launch, I've actually done a lot of implementations of these. And I ran across one the other day. Your AI agents kind of reminded me of it, but the folks we were working with, they actually had several dedicated servers that handled data processing. And they're processing so much data for their customers,
Hmm.
things like OCR and conversion of file types and stuff like that. You see this a lot in the e-discovery world. But they had like a handful of, I don't know, 15 or 20 servers that could only process a certain amount of data per hour. And they knew how much data they had, and they were able to use these to allocate the resource. Like, you know, this job needs to be put on these three servers for these 3 days, and then when they're done, they can move on to this next job. And so, you know, thinking outside the box, there's a lot of different resources out in this world, agents, AI, servers that we need to manage to maintain uptime and make sure that our jobs are getting done on time.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where we released the feature here recently, and the ingenuity and the ways in which our customers are using it has surpassed what we were even thinking was
Yeah.
was going to be the target initially. So it's cool to see. Like that's an idea. Yet again, I'm sitting here surprised because it's something that wasn't, even thought of in the early days, and here we go. Yeah.
Yeah,
signing work and needing to use it, right?
that's right.
All right. One more quick thing I want to talk about, and I think just while we're here, let's talk about collaboration, right? I touched on that earlier, but having that cross-functional collaboration, right? Like work flows up, down vertically, and it also flows horizontally in an organization, right? And I think that's one of the things that I've just come to really love about Wrike. I mean, we work in it day in, day out every day. So you really get to start seeing the power of like when you need to pass things around the organization or you need to pull people in, like things that were so like it was just frustrating, like how difficult it could be to pull people into work before and how easy it is right now.
Well, I started this with a story about when I used to use MS Project. And again, it was great for my schedules, my milestones, my deadlines, due dates, and generating, reports and making sure things got done on time. But it wasn't great at talking and collaborating with my team. It wasn't great at tracking my expenses. It wasn't great at all these other things. And so I still had quite the sprawl, right? I was
Yeah.
using it for Gantt charts and the stuff that it's great at, but I still had MS Teams and I still had to run Excel spreadsheets and SharePoint drives and you had to go to all these places or you had to drop hyperlinks to different things and say like, hey, here's our master place where you can go find everything. And so to your point, this is where for me, Wrike excelled. And I realized, wow, I can truly bring everything into one place and I can truly collaborate with anyone within my org on a project.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's like that goes to exactly what I wanted to show here, right? So I'm in a space here where I've got a defect, right? I could open up this defect, right? And within every Reich work item, whether it's project, task, whatever, you have the ability to come in, right? We have a rich text editor, so you could add information that you want, right, in here. There you go. You've jumped in. You could have multiple people collaborating, working together at the same time, right? So you have that, the ability, bold, italics, all of those different things. But you also have, this is probably my daily task is if you need to at mention someone. So like say I wanted to bring you in, like product Megan, right? And say, can you have a look at this, right? Like this immediately surfaces this into your inbox, right? Both your Wrike inbox and your personal inbox, right? And now I've brought you into this work item to work with me, right? To have a look at it. But beyond that, another feature too that I think has been like really neat to see is we've shown our proofing tool, like the ability to go in and proof images. This was been used for marketing teams inside Wrike for so long, like whether we're reviewing a PDF before we release it, or maybe even reviewing a web page. But a different angle of the collaboration I've seen recently is with quality teams in manufacturing. And they're using this as a way to actually collaborate on defects in the organization. So here's a great example of like, obviously we could see where the defect is, but if I wanted to come in and call out this defect and once again ask you to here's the defect we discussed, right? The cool thing about this is not only, sorry, as I'm typing and chatting at the same time. Not only have I brought you into the task, but I could also bring you into a specific image and come in and have we could work together on this image and ultimately um, use the proofing tool as a way to see like a problem we found out on the factory floor, like right like that, right? We have the ability to just ultimately collaborate together. So I think it's just, to summarize this, there's so many ways you could collaborate in Rike. Our platform's been built around it, so I could probably go on and on this even longer than I have. But I think, to me, it's all about like once we've gone from planning that work, just that power you get with bringing all these people together to do the work. That's where back to the change being scary. That's where Rike's really going to set itself apart.
Yeah, and a couple like the other two call outs is, and I've seen this functionality a lot, is you're talking about product, but you can just as easily tag in marketing. You can just as easily tag in legal. If this defect is
Mhm.
here,
Sure.
you can
Yeah.
at mention somebody from product, legal, and marketing all at once and say, hey, we've got, we've got something that's impacting rollout. You all need to know about this right away. and they'll all get to see it kind of in their niche spaces within Wrike, but collaborate together. And then I also want to call out while Matt, I think you had an attachment there. Again, we bring everything into the system. So you can attach directly from SharePoint, from
Yeah.
OneDrive. You can embed Wrike directly within Teams. So you still get that same organizational structure of your files and all of your assets and everything where they currently sit today, but now they're just all funneled into one place, unlocking all that collaboration. The one place I love the most in Rank is probably our visual dashboards. Um, I might, I don't know if I'm pulling on heartstrings or what, but anyone in the project
Mhm.
management world has been where I have been before, where they have to generate reports and they have to come in and they have to say like, I need project status updates. I need these reports delivered every Friday. And when I was in there, it was a combination of like screenshotting the Gantt chart, making sure statuses were updated, putting that into a PowerPoint, adding an Excel spreadsheet that I had to track other statistics, and that goes away with Wrike with our real-time dashboard. So, quick, let me just share here. Um, this is an example of a manager level dashboard. And again, I'm just in Wrike. This is live, it's real time. This lives in my tools on the left-hand side. But incredibly easy to configure. And one of the painful things for me is anytime I needed to put together, beautiful custom widgets or custom charts, it made the most sense. I had to migrate that data out to like Power BI, or I had to pull them into other tools where I could then create better looking reports. It's incredibly easy within Wrike to generate a widget. So, for example, let's just say we want to create a new widget. I would really want to focus on the key results that we have in the portfolio, generate a report of all the key results. And from here, let's break those down by something like what status those key results are sitting in. You can customize what data is going to show up in this widget, how it looks, what data it pulls from. You can apply filters to it. And as easy as that, I just created a widget that is now live on this dashboard. All interactive. So as I'm reviewing this, whether I'm an executive or a PM or a portfolio manager, um, you know, I notice here that 11% of my project base is at less than 50% confidence. Well, which key result is that? Which one is lagging behind? It's this one. And if I need to get to it, all I have to do is click the link and it takes me directly into that key result where I can see the projects that exist, who's assigned to them, and maybe what risks are potentially slowing this down. The long and short of that is I absolutely love these dashboards. The data that exists in Wrike is very easy
Mhm.
to put into any kind of visual format that's interactive, real time, but just like we did at the Gantt chart at the beginning, I can share this dashboard out either with other departments or people with Wrike licenses, or I can actually turn on public links to these. And this is some of the other feedback I get from customers. They absolutely love this. Instead of compiling that report now, generate a public link, throw a password on it, send it to your executive team, and they will have real-time access anytime, anywhere. So we've got, I've got hundreds of examples of dashboards. I know most of us do. So, anybody that's interested in seeing some, feel free obviously to reach out to, you can drop a comment in here, or you can reach out to anybody of one of your reps at Reich, and we'd love to show you more examples of those.
Yeah, I think, and just double clicking in on, what you touched on is, at no point did your PhD in data science or a data scientist like become a mandatory resource to get those reports built. Like, it really is a few clicks, and it's something that the proof is there. Go try it for yourself. Like, the widget will get you going, and if you want to build your own in a matter of clicks, you can get there without having that data science degree. All right, Ryan. Well, I think, we covered a lot here. Certainly a lot of the different pieces, whether it be the Gantt chart, resource planning, some of the extra stuff we have. I mean, there's so much more you get with Reich beyond what we showed today. I think, like, just echoing back on where we started, change can be difficult. But I think there's a lot of goodness. And right, we've ultimately got you covered with the table stakes that you've come to expect and so much more.
Yeah, I think Matt, I saw you put somewhere, sunsetting of MS Project. may seem scary, but it's not an end. It's a graduation, right? And it's a graduation to
Yeah.
something better that's ultimately going to come with some change, but it's all good change. And just know that like migration, getting you there, that's all something that we're there to help people do. So we look forward to how Wrike can help everybody that's looking for, a change from MS Project.
All right. We'll call it there. Thanks, everyone. I'm looking forward to a lot more episodes this year. Hope your year is getting off to a great start, and we'll see you again soon.
Yep. See you next time.